think the real intro is me asking Ian, "Hey, do you want to do the intro?"
Honestly, you should like put in like the NFL song, that's like football, the football NFL.
Oh, should I cue it right now?
Banner. How does it go?
All right, I'll kick it in right now to record. It's like, no, that's not how it goes. Johnny, how's it go?
Da 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 da. Dun, 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 dun.
Dun, dun.
Emo fans, welcome to the second half of the Super Bowl of Emo. I'm Elder Emo, Jonny Wanzer, and with me today we got Elder Emo Connor Flanagan and Elder Emo Ian.
Yo, here's the deal, Johnny. You're a professional. Thank you so much for taking it over.
It's great having a guest who is a professional, like, content creator and knows how to actually say things correctly instead of screaming, which is what we kind of just go to when we don't know what to say.
Yeah.
No. I have a lot of special things planned for you all today.
Oh, thank God.
Like my first one. Have you guys seen this shirt yet?
Fleetwood Mac. Was it Never Break the Chain?
Yeah. It's a Fleetwood Mac hard or straight edge shirt.
Fuck
That's
yeah.
so sick.
Yeah, so just know that
is there a back print like
it says
live
you
show?
Can go, yeah, so it says you can go your own fucking way on the back, and there's a picture of a knife.
Okay.
Hell yeah.
I might need two of those for my girlfriend and I.
Yeah, I think I got it from Meth Syndicate.
Dude, shout out to Meth Syndicate. Love meth, love syndicates.
Is that all right, we're next we're doing part 2 of the Super Bowl of Emo. We got 16 bands ready to go, and we got Jonny Wanzer here to help us with this bad boy.
Yeah, and a little bit about me. So I'm 33, so I grew up in a kind of a golden era of emo, so like early 2000s when it was transforming from the underground to mainstream. So I found myself in the 90s camp group and was a very big gatekeeper when I was a teenager. So it's a little bit about me and my background in emo. I also was in screamo bands in the mid 2000s. So
we're doing this because of the fact that we wanted to be more pretentious. So I'm really glad to have you on, and so you can really go back and dive back into that old teenage brain of yours where
we don't want woke brain here. We don't want like nice brain and like inclusion. We want like 2006 My Chemical Romance is not emo, you F slur. Like that's what I want.
Oh, I got it. And if this
but like we can keep the slurs back.
There we go.
And if this background isn't a forecast to that attitude, I don't know what to fucking tell you.
Let's go.
Even then, I was reading that the other day. I was like, "Shit, dude, we're even breaking the rules of that old shit." We only have one. We got 2 of those bands up on here. We have the real true emo bands.
We
got American football.
That.
American football
that's barely
real.
Emo.
Yeah,
they're saying that Sunny Day Real Estate isn't real emo. This, which is hilarious. It's like it's way too pretentious.
I think it's hard. I like that because they like group in like mineral and stuff. Whoever made that, do we think that this was a real person who said this?
This is like some 4chan bullshit.
But also I feel like half the 4chan bullshit was sometimes based out of reality with some weird incel, and there might have been like there has got to be a good chance that there's some freakazoid that just like truly felt this, but it could be fake. It could be a creepypasta.
So Johnny, you were on Tumblr. That's like how we all know each other is the Tumblr days. Were you on 4chan R Music or not R Music? What was it? /M.
Yeah, and I was also on B, and I was on that before Tumblr. So I think I started on that like 08.
Yeah. I was on B in high school.
Yeah.
Probably not good for my brain. I think that's how I became.
That's why we're all like this.
That's why we're all we're all soldiers. You know, we've seen war.
Oh,
We've seen people get DDoS and swatted in real time on 4chan.
yeah. I saw someone put shoe on head one time. It was crazy.
I don't even know what that means. I'm out.
Wow, dude.
Get out
Wow,
of
dude. I'm the old
isn't there
head.
like a whatever? Never mind. I'm gonna Google that real quick.
You're gonna Google shoe on head real quick. It's Ian, just to break it down for you.
I know there's that chick shoe on head.
You would just ask people to put shoe on their head, and they would just put a shoe on their head and take a picture.
Yeah, that's all it is.
That's all it is.
It's an old meme, archaic, ancient meme.
Oh yeah, older than Rick Roll, older than most things.
Rick was around for a while. Like that was
We're
like
talking like YouTube poop days.
Yeah,
dude.
YTM&D days. You know,
I forgot about that shit.
Absolute classic stuff.
Yeah, if you ever want to talk about if the early internet was punk, I'll come back on for that because I have way too much knowledge.
That would actually be fun. We should actually explore
I think that's kind of a slam dunk episode, but I think it's worth diving into.
Well, I don't know. It was fairly problematic.
That's true.
So
there,
we have that
you could
issue.
like buy a child, so I guess there's some gray areas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's still going on.
Dude, shout out or not?
Shout out.
Negative shout out.
All right, so here we are. So, all right, you already gave your credentials, dude. That was going to be my next thing. Was like list your credentials. But
Ian, what's your credentials? Why are you here?
Dude, I was just on Tumblr, dude. I was on Tumblr. I got into emo that way. I went to some garage shows a lot. So that's also punk. I saw some screamo bands in a garage, which is the best way to experience this genre.
Oh yeah. I saw a screamo band play in my friend's front yard one time at like 2:30 in the afternoon.
I saw one play at a rest stop once.
That's incredible. I once read on Tumblr someone describing screamo as watching 5 dudes sing the wrong lyrics in someone's kitchen, and I thought that was like the funniest way to describe screamo.
Yeah,
or emo.
That definitely tracks.
Yeah, especially like the gang vocal like sort of ones where it's just like too like they're doing it too much.
Yeah, or like where the mic gets thrown down.
Yeah.
And then the guy runs into the crowd and grabs his 2 friends who are also singing along. I mean, that shit was cool. I loved that.
It goes
there's
hard.
There's probably I need to find some I need to like lurk MySpace and find some old pictures of me like singing along.
They're all gone, dude.
In a garage. Is it
all
gone?
MySpace purge of 2016. It's all gone.
There's a couple.
RIP.
Randomly, there's stuff still there, but you might have lost a lot.
Most of the servers are gone. Yeah. There's like 3 pictures left of me up there.
Yeah. Shout out to 13-year-old me wearing skeleton gloves, posing in the mirror with my Virgin Mobile slide cell phone.
Okay, so we know what kind of emo kid you are,
dude.
Yeah.
So
he once said that he got a swoop haircut, but
I've been had the swoop haircut. It's just pushed back now under my hat.
I guess
you guys
you
are
do
fucking sellouts because I have the emo cut right now.
I'll say I have the same haircut as Jonny. My hair is just pushed back. And not blonde, but like I got into emo from watching Steven's Untitled Rock Show and seeing
"Oh my God, yeah.
I'm Not Okay" by My Chemical Romance, being like, I like this. Going to school, getting called emo, Googling it, and then finding like American football and like real emo that way, and being like, huh, I also like this.
Yeah, I think that makes you I put a lot of respect on your name for that one.
I know. And then fast forward, I just got an Indian summer tattoo, so now I'm really
look
cool.
At that. Oh well,
Shout
they
out.
didn't make your list here, so
We counted them more into like screamo, I think.
Yeah, so like we had
they
to
are more
distinct
screamo.
the screamo emo thing because like that would cause a whole mess of in between.
That's a future, maybe the World Cup of screamo we could do.
But I mean, that makes me want to transition into a little bonus segment that I planned for you all. You know me, I'm kind of weird. And this is the oopsie whoopsies. Is it punk? So oopsie whoopsies, you forgot to include these staple emo albums in your running here. So oopsie whoopsies at the drive-in, Relationship in Command.
Jonny yelled at me about this for so long when I invited him on.
Death Cab for Cutie. We have the facts and we're voting yes. Farraquet, The View from This Tower. No Knife, Fire in the City of Automatons, Owls, self-titled, Weezer, Pinkerton, Hum, You'd Prefer an Astronaut, Q and Not You, No Beep, or No Kill, No Beep Beep, Drive Like Jehu, Yank Crimes, Minus the Bear, Highly Refined Pirates, and Boys Life, self-titled.
Okay, so I do want to point out a couple things. One, I think that Pinkerton, we had a like that's like I don't even know if that's an emo, like Weezer isn't an emo band.
No, they're not.
But I could see that. I guess that album is, but like that was like that's why it was hard to include.
It's
it's
in the emo adjacent category, I think.
It's unintentionally emo because what they tried to do was they try to rip off like the Pixies in making that, but it came off like a little more emotional. Like the lyrics are very emo, and the way that it comes off is very emo. Some of the guitar solos are, but yeah, it's like it's got that kind of like raw energy that a lot of 90s emo was bringing, but it's definitely on the outside.
Okay, so also we did touch on Drive Like Jehu, but we felt that was more like post rock, and like they're like a post rock band more so than like.
You mean like emo violence, maybe? Post rock? Drive Like Jehu?
Yeah, that shit's like Slint, you know, like that's like what like.
No, you're thinking of a different band. This
Dude,
band goes
I'm
hard.
not. I don't know. It's like pretty jammy. It's like I don't know. They let that shit air out.
We definitely we talked about Jehu, and then also like Boys Life, where they were. I think we had them both on our list when we had like 80, and we were trying to get down to 32.
Yeah.
And they like just missed the cut where we were trying, because we were trying to get everybody from like 80s bands up until we had a band that put a record out like 2 weeks ago. So we were trying to have like the whole gamut. So we couldn't just shove in every 90s band, unfortunately.
And then
and Hum is like alt metal.
Hum is space rock.
Yeah.
But if you listen to like she missed the train to Mars,
I know,
Outback Counting Stars. That's emo, and a lot of songs on that record are like proto emo.
Yeah,
it sounds like they could play a show with Diary era Sunny Day Real Estate,
of course,
it would be a fucking solid show.
I think I agree, but then like there's also like the other bands that like if we were including that, there'd be like these other post-hardcore bands that I think that would be like included. Like I think like Sensefield and shit like is really good, and like but they're not emo. And I think that's where like I think Hum is more just like this alternative rock that was like kind of on the emo type wave. But I think that a lot of these bands also were on the alternative rock.
Well, then you got
board.
Bands like Jets to Brazil in here, which is like, you know, like, yes, there's emo parts of it, but they're as emo as all these other bands we're talking about.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
You are correct. We just like that band.
Well, Connor argued for it. And the other thing is they are like emo royalty making this alternative rock album. So that's kind of where they get in there. But I mean,
I would have just kept Jawbreaker, but
we have Jawbreaker too.
No, I know. I would have just been like, okay, Jawbreaker, and then Jets the Brazil.
I think you're definitely right. And then last one that I am going to argue against is what is At the Drive-In. Like At the Drive-In, I guess is a pretty emo record, but like I feel like they were just trying to rip off Fugazi and accidentally sounded emo, but intentionally they were just trying to be a like a post-hardcore act.
I would say that they are more so post-hardcore with a lot of their more popular stuff. But I even had this conversation with Connor, and I sent him some stuff from In Casino Out. Yeah. And I'm like, dude, listen to this song and tell me it's not emo.
There's a surf video that my roommate watches all the time, and that guy loves emo in it. Like it's just like the guy who made it, and it is full of like cursive. Every other song is like cursive, and it's At the Drive-In, cursive At the Drive-In, the Blink 182 and stuff like that. So
Blink 182 is funny.
I think that tie together, I think because they're all together in the one, I could see how that would be an emo record.
Yeah, I think I Miss You by Blink 182 is my favorite emo song.
It's a pretty good one.
And then the other bands, like Q and Not You, I think that's a little too for the heads than some of these other records. And
They were hated when they first came out.
Really?
Yeah, because they were doing the whole like dance emo thing, and people
Yeah.
were like, "You guys are fucking sellouts." But little did they know, a couple years later, the whole shit was gonna fall.
Everybody's dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was gonna get a lot worse than Q and Not You.
Honestly, I only got into them in the last year. That's like one of those things of like exploring the Discord back catalog and being like, oh shit, this band like fucking rocks.
Yeah, as I found out from doing this pod, there's like a lot of bands,
Yeah.
Every time we talk about anything, I'm always like, fuck, I have to listen to that record more, or I have to listen to this entire band's discography more. Oh, they have 10 releases. Okay. And then 2 weeks go by, and then we have more.
Well, I didn't mean to sidetrack you all, but this has been Oopsie Whoopsies. And back to the main show. Take it away, Connor.
Wow. Yeah. I mean, I love a little break segment, and so I'm so glad we didn't have to do any work on that, and that was just built in for us. So that was fantastic. Yeah. So do we want to get started? We want to start ripping into this before Ian's laptop dies?
Let's get started. I'm definitely going to have to get to my phone later, but you know what? Fuck it.
Yeah. Just give updates on occasion. What your percentage at? Where are you at now?
50.
Oh, we're good.
We got this.
All right. First up, we have I'm trying to queue up my little stupid things for myself. Here we go. Christie Front Drive, self-titled, versus Knapsack. This conversation is ending, starting now.
Okay, so initial thoughts. Let's go with that. Jonny, what's your relationship with either of these records?
So I'm new to Knapsack. I like knew of them, but I never got into them when I was younger.
Yeah.
But Christie Front Drive was definitely one of my like in my heyday emo records. Like this was a go-to. They have a couple of like classic emo bangers that you could definitely be like, this influenced like this band that influenced a lot. So I feel like this is an emo band that everybody likes. Not okay. So like imagine a very influential emo band, right? This is their favorite band. They're not necessarily like the best, but they're great.
To be honest, the reason why we're doing this is because me and Connor were talking about Knapsack. But like Christie Front Drive is something I actually hadn't really dove into until this project. At which point I listened to it a couple times, and honestly, I think I know what you mean by that. Like I think everyone from the 90s is like, yo, Christie Front Drive. If they were like in the scene at the time, they're like, that's like one of the bands. But listening to it now, I'm like, they're fine. They're a good representation of the scene at the time, but like they're not hitting as hard as some of these other 90s emo bands hit.
So we're going to talk about Mineral, The Power of Failing in a minute. But what I find really funny is, so this record's album art and that Mineral record are the exact same color scheme. And this sounds like a less good version of that record to me. And they were released in the same year. Yeah. And so that's my relationship with Christie Front Drive, is like when I started getting into like old emo, probably around like 06 to like 2010, like in that era. And I was going back listening to all these old bands. When I came across Christie, I was like, oh, this is just like less good Mineral. I'm fine with Mineral.
Yeah. My thoughts, it's an important album, and it's important because it's like, if you wanted to define like what 90s emo is, like to like a bare minimum without any frills, like, like Cursive doing rock opera shit to it or whatever, without any frills, I'd be like, check out Christie Front Drive. That is like base level emo, and work your way up.
It's a good starting point.
Because its downsides are it's repetitive and it's slow.
Slow. I almost fell asleep before.
But what would I rate this? I like it.
Whoa, green light.
Look at that. And then, so if you're putting them up against each other, as we are doing here, so Knapsack, what do you think about Knapsack?
So Knapsack, I started listening to it, and I think that they have a little bit more going for them than Christie Front Drive, and that was only a year later.
Yeah.
I think Knapsack is a more streamlined Jets to Brazil.
I will yeah,
because like Jets to Brazil is like trying all these different ideas out and like exploring, and I feel like Knapsack is like, okay, all of this is cool. I'm gonna make this into a refined album that is very easy to listen to.
Yeah, I think that Knapsack, or especially their older stuff, is like Jawbreaker worship.
Yeah.
Like 100%. And then with this, I think this album is where they kind of take it. They start exploring more, but it's also because they're so influenced by like Blake Schwarzenbach. I forget how to say his last name. That I think it just ended up really being like Jets to Brazil-y, and just because it's just like they're pulling from the same deck or something. So I think they are still like a very more true emo band than like, I mean, like I know we're going to talk about Jets Brazil and how we talked just now that Jets Brazil isn't like a true almost not even a true emo band, but I think that Knapsack is still, I think they're a true emo band.
That's why I said it was more streamlined. It's way more like emo, and they take the good things that Jets to Brazil kind of like explored and found and like put it into the sound a lot better. So I'm going to say I like it.
Whoa. 2 likes.
All right. Should we vote?
Yeah. I mean, well, my little 2 bits about Knapsack is I completely agree with everything you said. That's really it. I like their record before this a little better. Day 3 of My New Life, but this is also still a slapping record, and I'm gonna vote for Knapsack on this one.
I also got to be honest that Knapsack was one of my early emo, like true real emo dive-ins. Like I knew that I was supposed to like real emo, and I heard like Sunny Day, and then like early Jimmy Eat World, and then someone was like, oh, you got to listen to Knapsack, and I listened to Knapsack, and I was like, oh shit, this is the coolest shit.
But Ian, didn't you like only listen to this record of Knapsack for like the longest time?
I never explored their other records,
and I only listened to the record before this one for like my entire life.
Yeah, I only explored this record, and it's so good, and I like it better than Christie Front Drive on listen. I do agree that Christie Front Drive is almost like the perfect emo sound, like the most base level. I think you're right. It's kind of like how like if you were to strip down like
it's a starter
hardcore, you would probably just be like, oh, Minor Threat, you know what I mean? But the Knapsack record is fucking good. I'm going Knapsack.
Yeah, for me, Christie Front Drive has a couple of classic bangers that definitely I hold on to for nostalgia purposes, but comparing them musically and where they're at, they're only a year apart, and Knapsack is doing way more than Christie Front Drive. My vote, surprisingly, going to go for Knapsack. So,
wow.
There you go. Slam dunk 3 for 3.
I can't believe this happened, guys. We got the first one down. All right, next up, we have High Tide Hotel. Nothing Was Missing Except Me versus Taking Back Sundays. Tell All Your Friends.
This is such a messy comparison. This is
so for me,
ridiculous.
This is like very, very crazy because Take Back Sunday, hometown heroes, you know, like emo kid growing up like as a teenager in the mid 2000s on Long Island, Taking Back Sunday, obviously fucking loved this record and played all the time. But this High Tide Hotel record is like one of my personal like all-time favorite records. So in my heart, tough conversation, guys.
Yeah. And also like, Jonny, what are your thoughts on this Taking Back Sunday record being on this list?
Yeah.
So this record definitely is a turning point for the band and a turning point for the genre to really say that, because it's like, it's where things start getting flanderized in the genre. And if you're not familiar with that term, it's kind of like when you have, like, if you're watching like a sitcom show and there's characters that like do certain things and then they just keep focusing on that one characteristic until it's really fucking annoying. So what I mean by that is the vocals started getting more emotive and more ridiculous.
Yes.
But with that said, I think this album definitely deserves to be on here, because even though I would count this as the beginning of like mainstream commercial stuff, and it is a staple point album to help it get into the mainstream, it is still an emo album. It is still a real emo album. Like, as ridiculous as the dude's vocals are, there are some fucking bangers on this. It is super catchy. It is consistent all the way through.
You're So Last Summer? Like, come on.
It's really good. It is a good record. It's one that I slept on when I was an old head back in the, when I was a gatekeeper back in the old days. But
yeah,
I revisited it when I got a little bit older, and it is good. It deserves to be on this list.
Like, if we went to high school together, Johnny, I
like it.
I definitely would have been the junior high kid, like playing this, having a real good time, and you'd be like a sophomore being like, this fucking loser.
I'd be like, yo, listen, real emo consists of
they'd be like, yeah, no, I like that too.
Yeah, so when I was in like middle school when this dropped, I was a fan, and then I got into like punk and shit like that, and I took a step out, and then I got back in when I was older, and I was like, damn, this shit is
when you were
really
on Tumblr
good.
And all the hot girls liked pop punk.
Yes. And well, I don't know, I just re-explored the stuff that I used to like, and I was like, dude, this is so good. And I think that like it is that like bridging gap between the two eras, or if you were to say, like, if like they were a band that was like taking from the old stuff and then kind of just making this. And I guess your flannerization is true, because on re-listen, like recently, like in the last couple days, I was like, oh yeah, the vocals are pretty brutal.
It's like Thursday on crack.
Yeah. And it's really good. And it was actually like a really important record for me, because it probably is the reason why I was able to explore emo later, because I liked it so much in middle school that when I got older, I was like, I knew kind of, I was interested in like not weirder sounding stuff, but not straightforward hardcore stuff that I was like focused in on when I was in like 9th grade or whatever.
Yeah. And as much as us gatekeeping old heads like might like hate this band or because of what they have done, like we wouldn't have the When We Were Young Fest if it wasn't for this band and a few other ones really changing the landscape.
Shout out to Live Nation.
I hate what the landscape turned into like in 2005, 2006 with emo, but like it wouldn't have happened without them. And I still recognize that that's important. So
now talking about gatekeeping, we got to get into the Twinkle Daddies with High Tide Hotel.
Yeah.
Johnny, how do you feel?
I hate this band. They are not good. Why do I hate this band? Okay, so in like 2006, 2007, Cap and Jazz like got their second wind. And so we had a bunch of these fucking noodlecore bands come out of the woodwork because math rock was popular too. So the big one that came out of it, and we're going to talk about later, is Algernon Cadwallader, which I think they did a pretty good job at like being like, hey, what would Cap and Jazz sound like if it was these days? And like, that's cool. And then a ton of fucking shit bands came from that, just like noodlecore, and it just took over the fucking like underground genre. And at that point with me, I was like, I fucking hate this. Like, I like the noodles, but like it is too much. Everybody's sounding like this. And then I'm listening to this band, and it's like 2011, and they're still doing it. And I'm like, fuck that. The other thing that I don't like about this is the recording quality on this album varies. So like, I don't give a shit if you like, if it's like a full discography of your collection or like you recorded this on a tape thing. But the fact that they have some that are so like low quality and then some that are high quality for like just an album, if we're viewing it like that, that is shit. Like, I want a consistent listen all the way through, or know that I'm listening to your fucking demos, you know?
I'll say there is like, I think 2 straight up demos on this.
Yeah. But like only 2. And I know what you mean, that it is like, it does jump around. I remember that's what my issue was when I was first getting into them, that it was like, it didn't have the cohesive record sound that I like. And I like twinkly stuff, and like this didn't have that kind of feeling. But yeah, for me,
I counted 3 different recording qualities when I was listening to this. And also the last thing that I'll say is this is a poor man's Algernon, which is a poor man's Cap'n Jazz.
Hell yeah.
So jumping in real quick, like we were talking yesterday, or I guess last episode, and it wasn't yesterday,
2 days
but
ago.
about like twinkly emo, and I had a different point of view that twinkly emo had its heyday in 2011 2012. And like I know that's like I thought that's when it started like getting really big. Like you had I thought it was like these bands, like I think like Snowing and Algernon were like the early bands, and like that band Grown Ups, if you ever fucked with that band Grown Ups, it like I thought that was like the early days. But I guess it makes sense that you were in the scene and it was like everyone started playing in 2007 2008 just started.
Yeah, and Johnny's 3 years older than us, and you only care about twinkle music when you're between the ages of 17 and 22. So
yeah, I mean, the problem with it is it's cool and impressive, but it gets really repetitive really quickly, and everything just kind of fucking sounds the same. And yeah, I want to say like the twinkle core stuff really started picking up in like 08, 09 from what I remember.
Yeah.
And by 2011 I was out of emo, but just like looking at this I'm like I don't know. And you got to know that genres also last about 5 years too before they morph. So
and it's still like today, like if you go into like our emo, it's like everyone's like, oh, check out my emo riff, and everyone is just noodling like crazy.
I will say this is High Tide Tail's first record. And so it's like their first real like effort at putting an LP together. And the next 2 they put out definitely sound more concise. But I personally like this one because it hits such a perfect moment for me in 2011, being a sad boy little dork ass and being like, oh, these noodles are great. And I'm sad about girls. And I only like like 3 noodly bands, which is why this is like one that I like, because it was probably one of the first I heard. Where then like Grown Ups and Algernon are kind of probably the only other 2.
Yeah, I think the Kinsellas did it better like 10 years ago or 10 years prior to these guys. And then I also like, and I also like, I like noodle stuff, definitely, but I'm more of like a like Kinsella brother or like off minor sort of noodle and shit.
It's that old head shit.
All right.
What are we doing here?
We didn't put Captain Jazz through, huh?
No, Cap'n Jazz lost in the first round.
I know. So there's no way that this band can win.
I don't know. Let's see. Johnny, what's your vote?
Taking Back Sunday very easily.
This is so crazy. Ian, what's your vote?
Honestly, I was coming in here kind of like on the border, and I didn't really know what I was going with. After this discussion, I'm with Johnny. He kind of convinced me coming into this. I think that like this record is fine. There's some hits. Where's Walden bangs? But I think if we're going like influence / what I've listened to more often in my life and jammed out on, I would say Taking Back Sunday.
I got to throw a vote on High Tide Hotel, but it's 2-1. I lose.
Hey, you know what, Connor? We appreciate you over here.
Thank you.
I'm gonna give you a green background just for you though. That's like, what do I think of Connor? I like it.
He likes me. There we go. All right, here we go. Round number 3. Minerals, The Power of Failing versus Basement, I Wish I Could Stay Here.
I think this is another kind of wacky comparison bands.
So insane. What's even crazier is I've seen both of these bands live. So I got real takes.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't seen I haven't seen Mineral. But like, I want to say, just come out the front, both of these bands were like, I was big into. I have had like, just like, kind of those things where like a couple months where I'm just throwing it on every time I get in my car and listen to both of these records at one point in my life. So I really fuck with this shit.
I want to know what Johnny thinks about Basement.
I feel like he doesn't hate it.
So when it comes to Basement, I liked this record.
Oh, let's go.
Yeah. So what did I write? I wrote, This is a solid revival representation of late college rock 90s emo. All the tracks feed into one another really well. So like I never knew when the actual tracks switched, and I thought that was really cool. And it's really catchy and it's the right length. But yeah, it's reminiscent of the stuff that came after, like right after Mineral, like 1 year later when emo started getting more like cut blah 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 before like the Jimmy World's Taking Back Sunday stuff. More trying to think of a band like Mock Orange or like No Knife era of emo. And yeah, I liked it. And like there are some modern production stuff into it too, but it really is like a love letter to that era, but not like bastardizing it. Like they're not, and I'm sorry to say this, they're not doing the High Tie Hotel thing to Cap and Jazz. They're doing like, we like a bunch of this era and like we're gonna just like try to build upon that. So I really like this record.
And I think there's like modern influences too into it, which also makes it special. Yeah. Like it's like they're throwing in some of like the modern pop punk stuff that was going in on the time, but it didn't sound like a modern pop punk record. It sounded like an emo record, but it could draw the pop punk kids into it because of how, like, you know, based on the catchiness and like kind of like the fast like hardcore type parts and stuff like that kind of made it well,
because they're also pop. They're like hardcore dudes playing an emo band, so then it comes across a little pop punky. So it's like what early emo was, which was hardcore bands trying to chill out a little bit and get sad.
Yeah.
And this is Basement's first record too. So like how they evolve after this is so interesting and cool. But this Mineral record is an all-timer.
It is. Yeah. I mean, so me, you know, the whole thing. Do I like it? Yes, I do. Green.
Classic.
I wrote, this is a defining album of the late 90s emo sound. It's right in the middle of like everything that happened in it. But like the thing that it pioneers is a lot of emo before this was very slow, and it pioneers like a faster guitar or tempo and switches with the melodic emo sound. And it's what, and that would like kind of become more popular and refined with other bands going forward. But if people wanted more Sunny Day Real Estate Diary influenced emo with more dynamics, they got it with this record.
Yeah.
Gloria, If I Could, classics.
Parking Lot, that fucking guitar fucking, and then you cry. It's great.
Yeah.
I also think that it's kind of like, it's sloppier in like a good way. Yeah. Like it's like it has like it feels kind of punk, like even though it's kind of like this, like definitely like this, you know, rock, not rock, but it's like this emo record, but it feels like you could definitely show it to an open-minded punk rocker and they would be into it because of the sloppiness that like it has in it.
That's because it feels like it's trying to explore new grounds in the genre.
And it's youthful. Like it's like definitely you can tell it's like dudes like exploring shit and having like, I don't know, not having fun, but like
well, they're like getting after it.
Feels punk.
Yeah. I mean, I'll say, so from having seen both these bands live, so when I saw Basement, I think it was probably one of my, I would say at least top 5 sets I've ever seen live when I saw Basement. Like it was a huge crowd. Everybody sang every single song. And it was just like the most fun time, like the entire 45 minutes. And when I saw Mineral, I think it was the worst live set I've ever seen in my whole life.
Oh, well, what were those guys, like 20 years older now?
Yeah, it was like in 2016. It was like when they first reunited in some bar in Chicago, and they played fine, but nobody was into it. Like
because everybody's like 40 listening to it.
Yeah, and like it was the most uncomfortable show I'd ever been to, and I was so bummed. But so that's one negative. Another negative to Mineral. I mean, Ian knows where I'm going.
I know where you're going with this.
There's a little too much Jesus in this fucking record for me. Just a little fucking too much.
Really? Okay.
They are a full-on Christian band.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
Just, right, under the covers, just hiding out, just worshiping, preaching the gospel.
I do want to campaign like
that Jesus is
what
emo?
makes it special about like why that's special. So like especially in the 90s, like Christian like hardcore bands were straight up attempting to write like worship music with like but hardcore, and this isn't trying to write worship music. This is like writing an emo record but then also being like
talking to God,
having reference of God inside of it. And I think that like, and it's like, so a guy like struggling with emotions, but then being like, but like trying to like keep having positivity towards like, because of God. And I think that that's kind of what makes it interesting and cool. Like, even if you don't like Christian music, it's not a worship album. It's like
I know what you're saying.
But, it has Christian elements to it.
I'm gonna vote for Basement. I'm throwing it down. Throwing down the flag. I'm throwing down the gauntlet. I'm picking Basement because they like Jonny, you said, they are a perfect homage band and they're extremely accessible. So like you could play this for anybody today and they're gonna like it.
Yeah. The things that I'll say before you give your vote, Ian. My downsides: Mineral can be a little repetitive and sometimes it's a little too slow. But like I said, they were trailblazing at the time. Basement, the only negative that I have is they don't really do anything new for the genre that I haven't heard before, So like it is an homage and maybe they do stuff with later records, but this record, it's not doing anything new. It's just fine.
Yeah. Shit. Honestly, this is hard for me.
This is a hard one. Yeah.
I think that honestly, like, this is really difficult.
Ian, don't vote. Jonny, I want you to vote first.
You want me to vote?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to make it really interesting.
I know. That's why I want you to vote right now.
I really want to vote for Basement. I think they're good.
Yeah.
But I like viewing, I like them the same amount. But what sets it apart for me is viewing the importance of this Mineral album. And also like, I listened to them when I was younger, but I swear to God that is not like influencing this. It's mainly its influence because it went on to influence a ton of people for 10, 15, 20 years. So my vote, it's just slightly above Basement. I'm going for Mineral.
This is what I love. Ian, what's it going to be, baby?
So you're sending me into the tiebreaker.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is a hard pair up.
Here's my struggle. And I think you kind of touched on this. This is like quintessential 90s emo record. And I think like the cream of the crop of 90s emo that came out. You're like, and it really hits. Like when you have that right moment, it's like fucking, it's big and you're feeling it and you're driving around your car
in the rain with Parking Lot playing.
Or Gloria, dude. You want to get fucking hyped up?
Dude, especially when you're 20. Like, fuck.
Yeah.
Some girl hasn't answered your text in like 5 minutes. And you're a straight white male.
Yeah, but like, and then this Basement record, like this was like big for me, and then like even seeing it live now and just seeing that how much everyone has loved it, and just seeing that like it's like a full-blown like modern classic. Like they've kind of been around for 10 years. I guess this record came out like 10 plus years ago.
2011.
Yeah
2011. And it was like, and seeing them live in 2019 and just seeing everyone go nuts to it and just realizing how big and kind of like important this band was, I realized how much more they have. And shit, I think
so many words, Ian.
I know. I think I'm going for Basement, based around the fact that it is a personal, what I listen to every day. I would probably throw on Basement a little bit more often than I would throw on Mineral. And I think just because it has the more driving aspect of it, and sometimes I kind of want to go fast, and Mineral doesn't touch on that much.
Yeah.
Sadly.
The Basement album I could put on and listen all the way through and have like a really solid good time. The Mineral one is a little bit harder to do that, but I also like the Mineral album's like I'm really sad, you know. And this is really a hard vote.
Yeah. The also thing about emo is like emo's kind of hard to listen to, and Mineral represents that too.
Yeah.
You know, and like Basement could be like considered like easy listening in comparison to Mineral, but like it's good, and there's a reason why it's so easy to listen to is because it's just like it's catchy. And it's you can sing along to it like crazy. So
there it is.
Big ups to that.
Before we get into the fourth section here, I wanted Ian, little battery check. Where are we looking at?
We are at 30. We're at 26.
Whoa,
let's go. All right, yeah, we're probably gonna have to head a hard edit. Section 4, 24-hour revenge therapy by Jawbreaker versus The Ugly Organ by Cursive.
This is a matchup.
I've never listened to Cursive prior to this week.
Ooh.
I thought that was crazy. How did you feel about it?
I thought it was fine. Which I know is a crazy take, because every person I know that likes emo likes Cursive, and every list I've ever seen that this record is usually in the top 15. If it's like 100 or 50s or whatever, it's like ranked pretty high, and I know a lot of people like it. And it's just one of those bands that I just like never got around to listening to for whatever reason. And then I just listened to it today, and I wish I was in an opera mood, because I probably would have liked it a lot more. Because I think you said before, we were talking about like in the first round that they're crazy and operatic with it.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know, maybe next time I'm in a Sufjan Stevens vibe and I'm starting to fall out of it, I'll throw this record on and maybe it'll catch me right.
I think it's definitely different than that. Like it's not like
it's way different.
Well, no, it's different than that, but it's like I can glide out of my Sufjan mode into this one and get a little harder.
You know what I think you need to do? You need to listen to the Martyr first.
Okay.
That is the entry album for a person, because that is just straight. That's their straight emo album.
So I was I had that suggestion of like we do that record, but I was like, you know what, this is like the Cursive record. Mm-hmm. So I was like, we have to kind of give a play to like when emo gets weird, and so like that's why I kind of like
this is an emo album.
Yeah, that's right. I went with The Ugly Organ, because it's like this is an emo record that is experimenting with what else they can kind of do within the genre besides just writing sad songs about girls.
I did like how weird it was.
A weird story of it's like it's about writing music, isn't it? It's just about like an artist.
Yeah, it's about himself.
Yeah.
And the cover kind of looks like it's got boobs on it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of cool.
It's an ugly organ.
Yeah.
Are you, Johnny, a big fan of this record?
I love this record. This is one of my favorite emo records.
Wow.
When this came out, I was into music. And so I liked The Martyr. And The Martyr is a fantastic emo record. It's also one of my favorite emo records, because what you'll discover when you're listening to it is it's fucking weird, but it is still emo to its core. And it's so good and catchy. They do the math emo shit correctly. But yeah, this hit, and it was a huge fucking deal when it did, because what it does is it takes emo, right? But it introduces a rock opera orchestra, like sort of glam and a theme aspect to it. And it was a bridge to indie rock and vice versa. So a lot of kids that were into indie rock and not necessarily emo got into this record and liked this record. And it was just like, it is, and the fact that it's high concept and it's done and there's barely any misses on this record, it is just like hit song after hit song after fucking banger. The whole thing is consistent. And it's just, it's fucking phenomenal, and it's my favorite record on this entire list.
Wow.
That's okay. This is gonna be crazy. So, Ian, I know how you feel about Jawbreaker. I know this. We've discussed Jawbreaker over the last decade that we've known each other. Jonny, what's Jawbreaker like to you? How you feeling?
I thought it was funny that you included this record and not Dear You.
Because
Dear
You is too obvious.
Dear You
is not too obvious.
Dear You is objectively better for Jawbreaker, because this record that you included on here sounds like a fucking Jets to Brazil album. You know what I'm saying?
You think so?
Yeah, it's more Jets to Brazil than Jawbreaker, because if you were like, hey, how did we get from Jawbreaker to Jets to Brazil? I would put this record in between and be like, listen to this. This is how it happened.
We were kind of talking about, and I was listening to this record earlier, and I was thinking about the concept of like, transition records. From like the old sound to the new sound that the band does. And I think that this is Jawbreaker's transition album. Especially because you take the stuff they were doing before, they hit this, and then this takes you into Dear You, but that also makes sense that it also is kind of taking you into what's to be done with Just Brazil. But I think this is a more stripped down album than any Just Brazil album. Like this, it's like punk. I was actually listening to it. I'm like,
pop,
shit!
It is 90s pop punk.
Yeah, I mean, there's like the slower songs and like the more like, it's very like emotional and almost like over dramatic at times.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I think it's their best record.
Yeah, I view it more as a rock album than an emo album.
Yeah, it definitely hits that a little bit. When I listened back to it earlier today, actually, I was listening back to it, and I was sitting there thinking like, why did we pick this one?
Yeah,
because
there are emo parts to it, definitely,
for sure.
But like, I would have made the argument that you guys made for all my whoopsie doopsies with this record. And I probably would have put Dear You in instead of this if we were trying to go for like more emo, I guess. But I like with Jawbreaker, I view them as a pop punk band, like early 90s pop punk when it was still raw and like they were figuring it out. I
think they're a proto emo album. Like I think that this is the transit, like I think emo bands basically heard like the old Discord shit that was like the Revolution Summer stuff, and then this record, and I think that that's what creates like that blend of it came to emo. This is like 93, so it's like kind of right before the big emo everyone starts dropping shit, which is like what, like 96 or so.
Yeah, like definitely this is when emo was trying to find its footing. Like it said, like this was released 94, recorded May to August in 93, at least according to fine folks at Wikipedia. And it's the perfect timing because like you have like Indian Summer doing their thing at this time, this going on, like Jimmy Eat World, I think formed in 94, and like all that shit was, everyone was trying to figure out exactly what they're doing. And like you said, 96 was when like the emo quote unquote sound, I feel like started to like exist.
Yeah, like the proper melodic second wave sound.
Yeah.
Do I like this record?
Ooh.
I don't.
Damn.
Whoa.
I think there are some select tracks on it that I do like, but trying to listen to it all the way through, I just wanted to put on Dear You the whole time.
Jonny, this is exactly what I felt earlier when I was listening to it. I put it on, skip, listen to Boxcar, skip,
That's
listen
a good
to
song.
Condition Oakland, Ache, Do You Still Hate Me, skip, Jinx Removing, turn it off.
Yeah, because if we're talking about albums, I want to like the whole thing.
See, I do like the whole thing. I think every song in here bangs. Like I think that like, and I think it's like, it is like raw and like energetic, but then also has like it has like the pop punk parts. They're like the total like just total Gilman type scene parts, but then it also has like the emo parts with like Ashtray Monument. I think is like an insane song, and like probably one of my top favorite Jawbreaker songs in general. Let me look at the Dear You track.
Like I said, it has its moments, and I don't hate it.
Yeah,
but it's nothing that I would ever go out of my way to put on.
Jonny, would you say you maybe should have done a yellow light for this record?
Yeah, I could have done like I mean, this is kind of yellow. I could have done a yellow light. I could have just, maybe I should have did my like, this is my lukewarm.
Yeah.
Or something. Yeah, maybe I should have did a yellow light because that's in between green and red.
Yeah.
I mean, to keep talking about it, I know, but I think like this is the Jawbreaker record. Like, I think that this, if you were to be like, what does Jawbreaker sound like? I would say this album, because
I would say
people were pissed. Well, no, people were pissed with Dear You. It doesn't represent like, it was the last thing they released. So it's like not like what they were doing most of the time versus
it's their Black album.
Yeah. I think that like pre Dear You, I don't really like any of the full Jawbreaker records. I like bits and parts, and then I like all of Dear You. And all the songs that I like pre Dear You, I think sound like Dear You songs.
Yeah.
I guess I'm looking at the track listening to Dear You, and you know what? There's not a song on here I don't think has a moment that I'm like, this is the best band in the world.
Dude, shout out. So to stop us from talking about this for another 45 minutes.
Yeah.
Cursive?
Oh yeah, by far.
I thought I knew what Jonny was picking.
By far.
I'm gonna pick Cursive too, which is crazy. I came into this saying, "Oh, I'm gonna pick Jawbreaker," but here we are. I'm picking Cursive.
Yeah,
and like, dude, no hate to Jawbreaker. I like
not
Jawbreaker.
at all. Me too.
So,
I think they're supposed to be playing some new shows this year. Maybe trying to go.
Yeah,
get
they're
COVID.
doing a Dear You thing. You put Jawbreaker on the.
Oopsies.
I do want to say I have a correction for Jonny real quick.
Okay.
It's actually called Domestica and not the Martyr. The Martyr.
Domestica. Sorry. Yeah.
The Martyr.
The Martyr is the fucking the tits
banger
on that fucking track though.
Yeah.
Like if you listen to that song, you'll be like, I've never heard a song that sounds like this.
Yeah. I think definitely listen to that record, Connor. Like I think you'd be into it. It's pretty cool. It's like also kind of like a mature emo record, if that makes sense.
Yeah,
like,
I'm almost 30, so
yeah, I think it'll hit. It's about a divorce. Like it's not about a break. It's about a divorce.
Let's go.
It's unique too. It's a very unique emo record. Like no one sounds like Cursive.
Yeah. Do you like their other stuff? I mean, I know we probably have other things to talk about, but
only there are 8 bands, but it's fine.
I don't mind the EP in between that and Ugly Organ, but everything after, all the brass shit sucked. And then there are a few later albums that I thought were okay, but
so they have a bunch of like horns.
I would never
stuff?
listen to them again. Yeah, so like after Ugly Organ, they fell off. No, it's not good.
Yeah, I know. You also didn't like High Tide, and I did, so.
That's true. I don't think you'll like this though. It's like if they took emo and swing and made it.
Okay, that sounds rough.
It's bad. It was like the worst follow-up ever, and people were so let down.
Section 5. Do you know who you are by Texas is the Reason?
This is a fucking easy one.
Versus American Football LP1. Jonny, if it's so goddamn easy.
Let's talk about Texas is the Reason.
Let's talk about one of Connor's favorite bands. Let's go.
This album, I don't like it. And like, Texas is the Reason is fine. This is what I wrote. For positives, they feel like an updated and refined Mineral. It feels like they were like, okay, we like Mineral, like let's make that better and like do some cool chord changes. Okay. But it is really repetitive. Like going through the track list, most of the songs are in the same key, which sucks. And so like I hate it when stuff's like that and it's not good.
When you were saying before about Basement, how like you didn't know when the songs would end and the next one would start, but like in a good way.
That was different.
Sometimes when I listen to this record, that does happen and I go, fuck, wait, where am I?
Yeah, but it's totally different with Basement because
Yeah.
Basement, they have like these stops in the songs, and so and like it
sounds
feeds
better.
really well.
There's transitions. It's not
There's
just
transition.
like the same over and over again.
Yeah. I also wrote bands like Knapsack, No Knife, and Mock Orange did this genre, did more for the genre a year or two later than Texas Is the Reason. Yeah, because they were like 97 this record, right? 96. Okay. So I will give them props for doing this sound
First.
Early.
First-ish.
Yeah. And first-ish. Yeah. So I do give them props for that. Yeah. So I guess they were like kind of a more streamlined mineral, but not as expansive in my opinion.
So when I was talking to Connor about this, and I was like, you know what, Texas the Reason has never hit with me, and it's always everyone's like band they throw out like, oh, you know,
I thought you liked this band.
No, like I'm fine with it.
Oh, you were fucking with me, Connor. Okay.
Yeah. No, it's Connor's favorite band.
It's Connor's favorite band, not my favorite.
Oh
band.
shit, I'm sorry.
Yeah. So but like, yeah, it's never spoken to me. Like, and I think I never knew what it was because I'm not musically inclined. But the fact that it is in the same key is probably the reason why, because it just sounded kind of the same. And on listening back, I was like, okay, there's some tracks. Like I think that Back and to the Left is a track. Like I think
that's a good one.
That hits. And I think the fact that they were on Revelation is probably the reason why they're kind of more well regarded, because they were like the weird band on the hardcore record label.
And I'll give them props for that too. That's pretty cool.
And I also give them props for naming themselves after a Misfits lyric. Like that's really fucking sick to me. Like I've always wanted to like them because of the fact that it's like also one of my favorite Misfits songs. So like I just always thought that was really cool. But yeah, I was hoping that on this experiment I'd be like, oh, this is like my favorite shit. And
I wanted to like it too.
I came out of it being like, oh, it's just I still feel the same way. Like there's a couple tracks, but for the most part, it's I probably wouldn't have recognized that if I wasn't sitting around focusing, trying to make myself enjoy it.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you guys where the whole record itself sounds kind of the same. But for me personally, I think like the songs that hit, like A Jackal and I is so good. Back and the Left's great. Jonny and the Spot's great. And I've seen them live twice when they did their reunions. I think in 2012 or 2013 or something like that. And then like a little bit later in like 2016 or something like that. And both times were phenomenal. Like phenomenal. Like so good. And like the first time I saw them, I saw on the Might of Princes first and then them right after. And that was just like such a crazy like hour and a half for me. But like, I do know exactly what you're saying, and perhaps maybe this is an accidental shot at the band, but I don't know fucking shit about music, so it doesn't hit my ears bad when it all kind of sounds the same. I'm kind of like, I like this. I like the whole 45 minutes. It's all fine.
The thing that I don't like about that is like nothing jumps out. The only thing that jumped out was I heard like some emo violence influences, which is really cool. Like there's some chord progressions that were like very emo violence. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Cause like not a lot of like emo violence influences brought over to like this part of emo. So
that's probably because they were so early-ish in the creation of the sound. And then right after them, like you said, Knapsack and bands like that sort of took the ball.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd much rather listen to those bands than this one, and I would compare them all together. So
maybe like we're talking about Texas the Reason, kind of similar to how we talked about Christie Front Drive, where like you want to know what 90s emo is? Here, listen to these two, and then move along.
Yeah, I would kind of put them in the same like
when I was first getting into everything, this was like one of those bands that were thrown at me a lot. Like people always name dropping them and stuff like that, telling me to listen to them, especially like
probably me being
because of Basement and Title Fight getting so big. A lot of the older heads were like, "This is just Texas Is the Reason," like redone, and like, which is partially true, but like it's just like felt different, and I liked the other stuff that was going on around this time more. And again, doesn't pop.
Yeah, they're kind of like the built to spill of emo to me. Like, I just don't care.
Fair. That is how I feel about built
but
to
a
spill.
lot of people like them, but I don't understand why.
I like one built to spill record. I've seen them live though, and gotta say I was pretty bored the entire time.
That tracks.
Yeah.
So
let's
American
talk
football?
about the other big boy. Yeah.
American
Let's talk
football
about the big boy.
LP1, everybody, the world's most famous emo record. How the fuck?
I love this record,
Dude, it feels so cringe to be like, yo, this record's good.
I like this record before anyone else fucking did. But yo, I've been listening to this record for almost 20 years. I got into it in 2003, and like it bridged me to a lot of emo stuff. You know,
they bring in the horns correctly with this.
Yeah, and I'll let you go before I go off on my fucking tangent. But
yeah, because I mean, like. Yeah, like pre this Cancelas, I mean, these are just some emo fucking boys. Like they have their hands in so many different things. And then like when this band started, like correct me if I'm wrong, but this shit flopped hard, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like nobody gave a fuck. They broke up and they just moved on. And somehow this just became the record. And like I remember first hearing it and being like, "Oh, that's really good." And then like everybody liked it, so then I became a contrarian and was just like, "Ugh, I don't like need that."
Yeah.
And so I listened to this record for the first time like last week in like it had to be like 5 years. And it's so good.
It's really good.
It's so good.
It's
you can't even really talk about it too much, right? Because it's just like it's great.
This shit grabbed me pretty much instantly the first time I heard it when I was like, I don't know, 20, like whatever. And I listened back to it definitely at least once a year, at least. And it's good. It's good all the way through. I think that although like Neverment is the classic hit, I think that the other songs should be given a little bit more respect, should be put on their name, because
they're also not emotional.
Honestly,
yeah,
dude, honestly, for sure.
But the regrets are killing me.
Yeah, every song is great on it.
Yeah,
yeah. For me, so like I'm a big fan of Chicago emo and like the '90s to early 2000s, that era. You know, Kinsella shit. And you know, you got to think about it, like. All the core members of that band started in Cap and Jazz, right? And Cap and Jazz is very like rugged, blah, blah, blah. So they split off. You got Joan of Arc. It's whatever. It's okay. But then you have this little band called the One Up Downstairs. Do you guys know of this band? It's the precursor band to American football. And it is taking that like Chicago sound and making it more mature. And it's only three songs, but like, there's something really special about it. And then with American football, they totally refined it. And it sounded nothing like all of the other shit coming out. It took math rock and post rock and made it easy to consume. And I think people were really confused about it at first, especially because of like the math stuff and the weird time signatures. And it was like a little less like in your face than other things coming out around the time, like Owls or things of that nature. But I wrote it was ahead of its time because this album didn't pick up until the underground got a hold of it 5 to 7 years later and then emulated the fuck out of it.
Yeah, I can't even. I'm like hard pressed to think of a band that like ripped off American football well.
Yeah, no one does, and it's a very Pinkerton story. It almost has the same story of being underrated, and now it's a 10 out of 10 classic. Anyways, I'm done.
Yeah,
I also think that like I think at this point, even most math rock bands, a lot of the kids are probably getting into American football first and then getting into math rock from there.
Oh, for sure.
Like that's how much this album has become like that influential.
Like the only band I can think of that kind of sounds like this. It is a meme. The only band I can think of that kind of sounds like them is like Joy de Vie. And like they have spots where like they're like maybe the closest approximation, but even still, like nothing just hits the right way. And nothing's even like a clear ripoff, but they clearly influenced anybody that likes emo post 2005.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
So they move on.
Yeah. My only negative I wrote, and this is a hot take. Owls is the better band.
Dude, such a contrarian thing to say.
No, it's not. I got into both those bands at the same time, and I always thought Owls was slept on.
Yeah, I do like
and
Owls.
I still think Owls is slept on.
I don't think I've ever like explored it that much,
dude.
To be honest.
So little mini rant. Owls is sick because it's all the members of Cap and Jazz getting back together to form a new band. So it's basically Cap and Jazz part two. And it's so mature, and it's only like 6 years after Cap and Jazz. So it's just so phenomenal.
Yeah, I had them on the list when we were trying to whittle down. They got the boot though from my co-host.
Yeah, that's one of my top 5 favorite emo records.
But
Owls album.
If we're moving on, I think one of these bands should have gotten the boot too.
Well, fuck you. All right, round number 6.
Wait, so we need a vote, right?
No, I thought
we voted.
Yeah, it's American football.
We got it. I wouldn't even American football. I think that I could have loved Texas as a reason, and I think American football would have moved on.
Yeah, I mean, I love Texas, but yeah, come on.
Okay.
All right.
Here's another easy one.
Round number 6. Hey Mercedes, every night fireworks, and Sunny Day Real Estate Diary. So Hey Mercedes is a pretty cool band that formed after Braid broke up, and I like this record, and I think it's fine. Johnny, you gonna turn on your red light now?
This record was the worst follow-up to Frame and Canvas. Like, how do you go from Frame and Canvas, something so... By the way, I saw that you guys voted that out, which I fucking hate that you guys did that. But
well, over 4 Minute Mile, dude. That's what it was going against.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah,
but Frame and Canvas is one of the best 90s emo records. And then you go from that to Hey Mercedes, which sounds like a watered-down 90s emo band. And it's just like... It lost all of its charm. It lost its poppy flair. It's just a worse version of Braid. It's just terrible.
When you get tired of listening to Frame and Canvas, you put this on and you go, okay.
Just for background noise.
Yeah, and you go, dude, I literally wrote a lecture to this record. It was perfect background. I didn't get distracted once.
Yeah, that's because it's boring.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the songs are long, and he has the least emotive voice
that's true.
I've ever heard. Well, at least on this record, like it's really bland, and they like try to do some like not rock, but like pop rock element to it. Like I don't know when Piebald came out, but like kind of like Piebaldy type rock and shit. I don't even know how to describe it, but
sure.
This is that, but really, really boring version of it.
Did you guys know that? So Bob Nana is the singer of Hey Mercedes and Braid. Did you know that him and Tim Kinsella had a band for a short while? Because they're both from Chicago.
No, what's the band?
They had
called?
a band in 1995 called the Sky Conveyor. It's a very interesting listen. Like it's a little rough, but it's interesting hearing them in a band together.
Which Kinsella?
Tim Kinsella.
Tim. Okay.
Yeah.
Weird.
So singer, Cap and Jazz.
Yeah. Okay, so Sunday Real Estate Diary. You guys both just want to like jerk each other off or something?
Ian, I'm gonna let you go off first, bud, because I know that this is one of your favorites.
Oh, I think this is like the perfect emo record. Like it has the entire sound going down. The fucking like what fuck oh my gosh, the fucking drums are nuts.
The drums are nuts.
And everything about this I think is really good. It has like the soft parts, the big loud parts that like emo should have, and I don't really know what else on top of that to say, but I love this. Like I think they're the band.
Got a lot to say on this band. So Jimmy Fallon, talk show host.
Yep.
Very cringe. We could all probably put the red light on him, right? You know what I'm saying?
That boy sucks.
But the one thing that he got right is Sunny Day Real Estate is his favorite band.
Let's go.
Do I like this record? Yes, I do. You want to know why I like this record? It brought alternative rock and emo together. It like took that like Smashing Pumpkins sort of Weezer-ish, like Nirvana, a little bit of grunge because they're from Seattle. It took all of that and took emo and made it into like catchy, just like bare minimum raw thing. And this record is like what I view as the turning point to like emo phase 2, where people like hear this and they're like, oh shit, like we can make stuff way more melodic. Yeah, you have fucking bangers like In Circles, 7, fucking there's like every single song is phenomenal. It's a solid lineup. My only downside is like sometimes it gets a little bit slow, but it is top tier emo, and like it is inventive. There's a little bit of Jesus in it. So
it's my negative.
But my other hot take is I do love this record, but I am more of a LP2 boy.
Are you really?
Yeah. I when I first got into Sunny Day for like years, Diary was number 1. And I didn't really care for LP2, but as time progressed, LP2 is fantastic.
I also have to agree that I like LP2 more, but it's kind of like, I don't know, like I have 2 dogs, you know, I love both of them, you know, I'm not going to put one of them down and keep the other one. I like them both.
Exactly.
But Diary is so good for every reason that you guys said. And also it fits something we haven't really talked about yet when it comes to emo records. They do all the fun stuff with the names of the songs that emo bands always do, where like they have numbers as the names of songs. So they have 47 and 48, and then they have 7, but 7 is spelled out instead of just being the number 7, which is so stupid. And then they have like the 7th song is like, how the fuck do you even say that? Fuerton Squirto? Just nonsense. It's fucking gibberish. They just saying dumb shit. And like emo bands, I feel like always do that. They have like silly names for their songs or just like numbers, and they pointless. And they're probably one of the first people to really do that too, because like you said, this was recorded in 93, came out in 94, and this was probably the best of that time that was creating that new wave of emo.
And not to mention, 2 of the members went on to be in Foo Fighters.
Yeah.
And the bassist is still in Foo Fighters. And I like Foo Fighters. So
America's greatest
Foo
rock
Fighters
band.
pretty much broke up Sunny Day Real Estate, didn't they? At least that's what I thought. Like I thought
no, Jeremy found God, and that's what broke up them the first time.
And see, this is why that fucking Jesus is not that great. I don't like him. I'm not gonna go that hard because we're on YouTube.
Did you guys ever play the emo game?
That was like the one that was like it was.
Oh yeah, like the video, like it was like the 8-bit characters, right?
Yeah, it was like a flash game.
Yeah.
Never
And
played
there was
it,
like
but
a sequel. So he's one of the bosses. He's like a Jesus boss, and there's a whole joke about the 3rd album sucking and him like finding God and shit. It's good. But shout outs to the emo game.
Dude, that shit hit. So I guess we'll take some votes here. This is a tight one, pretty close. Jonny, what do you got?
You know, I'm gonna have to go with Sunny Day Real Estate.
Oof. Okay, Ian, what are you going here?
It's close. I have a lot of fondness for Hey Mercedes. I will probably definitely be listening to it a lot. But I think it's Sunny Day Real Estate.
Okay, I mean I agree, but I do think Hey Mercedes is fine. It's perfectly fine.
You're okay.
Yeah. All right, round number 7. First up, Tiger's Jaw, the self-titled, versus Some Kind of Cadwallader by Algernon Cadwallader.
We're taking it to the 2010s.
Oh, This is heavy Tumblr.com right now. So, Algernon Cadwallader, I actually found pre getting on tumblr.com. How exciting. Found them on the old MySpace. I was just cruising around looking for bands, and I actually found Tiger's Jaw and Algernon in the same week, cruising on MySpace, because they're both like Pennsylvania bands and both played in Philly a lot, even though Tiger's Jaw, they're from like Scranton area. But I was checking out all sorts of Philly bands, and Tiger's Jaw was like adjacent. So I had been listening to these two bands for the same amount of time, and both these records were out when I found them. So this is I don't know what to do. I love both of these so much.
Jonny, what's your relationship with these records?
So I never got into Tiger's Jaw. I only just listened to it recently. But when I was living in New York City, I was a part of a collective that booked some shows, and we booked a fest, and Algernon Cadwallader was one of our headliners. So I got to meet the guys. I saw them. I even paid them money. Very, very nice guys. And I remember when this record came out, I was kind of into it. It never really clicked with me though. And I can get into my opinions on both, but yeah, those are my relations to the records.
So these are both tumblr.com era for me. I didn't get into them if it wasn't for being on the internet at that time.
Different coast, difficult, you know.
Yeah, I have fondness for both of them. Deep fondness. Although I will say that this is not my Algernon record. Like this is when I get bored. Boy. This is when I get bored of listening to Paraflies. I throw on this. And this is my Tiger's Jaw record.
This is the Tiger's Jaw record.
Well, it is the Tiger's Jaw record.
They have 8 more, but they're all downhill.
I will say I do enjoy. I thought Charmer was fantastic.
That's true.
I think that, and also not quite the same, but I do like, what's it called? Wicked Phase. I think Wicked Phase
Wicked Phase is absolute ass. Wicked Phase is the worst thing that has happened to American music.
You know what?
Hard stance.
I disagree.
Hard stance. Jonny, have you ever listened to Wicked Phase Spring Eternal?
No. What is that?
It's the guy from Tiger's Jaw. So Tiger's Jaw has 2 songwriters and 2 singers, and they kind of go back and forth on the records.
Yeah.
And so one of them left, and he started a
emo rap,
hip hop, emo rap thing. And
like recently?
No, like he was like he
kind of started it.
He put on Lil Peep. Like he was the guy who started Goth Boy Click.
Oh wow, really?
Yeah. He's to blame.
Interesting.
So he has a completely different sound than the other guys. Like while all of them are doing like they're fully resting on like trap kind of style of rapping, he is fully just being Tiger's Jaw singing over trap beats and sometimes weird samples. And he does
sucks.
Like Sufferon's pretty cool. Like it's like there's a lot of acoustic guitar. It's interesting.
Yeah, Ian's sitting here talking about how this is good, and then Jonny and I just interject randomly. Wow, that's terrible, man. That sounds like ass.
I mean, I like some of the emo rap stuff, but like there's a fine line with it, and I can just see this going terribly.
Yeah.
I say give it a listen. I think it has. I think it's worth a listen at least.
What's really crazy is this is very, very different than what we're supposed to be talking about. But Wicked Phase put up that split with Pillars of Ivory recently.
Yeah.
And like the Pillars of Ivory song hit so hard, which Jonny, if you don't know Pillars of Ivory, it's the guy from Mind Force. And I think most of the band from Mind Force, which is like a hardcore band. And then they have another guy in there like rapping over it. And it just sounds kind of like 90s hip hop, like over hardcore. And it kind of fucking works.
Is it like rap rock?
No, it's not new metal. It's literally just like
a hardcore band. Did you ever fuck
band.
With Cold War?
Yeah.
It's kind of like that.
Is it kind of like Inside Out then? Which is pre-Rage Against the Machine?
Honestly, I would kind of say I know what you would mean. It's more like definitely what did I say, Cold War, or even like what's the other band like? I don't want to sound like an idiot, so I'm not going to talk on hardcore, but
Turnstile.
No, more like never mind. I'm not going to talk about it. But E-Town
Okay.
Concrete, if you've ever heard
Oh yeah.
that.
Okay.
So kind of on that.
Either way, it slaps, and then next to it is the Wicca Face songs, which are absolute hot ass. But Tiger's Jaw, this record is really good, and I got my first Tumblr URL from one of these songs. Shout out a portrait in grayscale.tumblr.com.
I remember that.
What's up, baby?
I must have just started following you right when Fortress
of Self. Yeah, that was a quick change. That was a quick change. That was a 2012 change.
Because I've always known you as Fortress. So
yeah, it's because I'm built like a brick shit house. At least now I am. But yeah, so this Tiger Jaw record, I really like. I'm really interested to hear what Jonny has to say, because I feel like this boy, I don't know. I feel like
me and Connor have also
this is a
already
yellow
talked
light.
about this record for probably the last like 10 years.
10 years.
So the thing about this record, it's nice and catchy. And there's a ton of harmonizing over like some classic emo riffs. But
Ooh.
I didn't like this record. There's not a lot of dynamics with the vocal melodies. It's all blah 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 blah. It's literally that melody on every song.
That is correct.
And did a different key. And that is like the most overused like modern emo vocal riff. And so that sucked. I did appreciate the harmonizing and like how crazy it is sometimes, but
I will say
it didn't do enough to push the genre for me.
I think they were like 15 or 16 when they made this. So like,
really?
Yeah, they were like at the oldest, like 17. Like I'm pretty.
And they
sure.
were like a folk punk band before creating this. So some of the songs are even like partially from when they were like their folk punk days.
Yeah,
Yeah,
rewritten.
so it's like I give them credit for being like literal children when they did this, because it stands so well. But I do know exactly what you mean. And like Ian said, Charmer, I think, is like a really good sort of expansion on it, where they do a little bit more, but Tiger Jaw does suffer from every song sounding kind of the same.
Yeah, and I just, the time that they came out, like I felt like it didn't really. I felt like there were other bands doing what they were doing like better, and I feel like they weren't doing it for me. I see the appeal. I get why they're popular, but I don't think that they did anything to like push the genre.
I think what helped with Tiger's Jaw is they came out of the hardcore scene, and I think that because there were these hardcore, not like hardcore affiliated dudes who are playing this music, I think that is what like kind of projected them. I also didn't know they were so young when they dropped this record. And so that also makes sense.
That's impressive.
Very impressive. So that makes sense. I will say that this song is the first 3 songs. One, like that's a triple hitter for me. Like those 3, like I love those to this day. I'll throw those on and be like and sing along.
That's all I need to hear from this record is the first 3 songs.
It goes away after that, to be honest. And actually, Chemicals I find to be one of the stupidest songs ever written.
Well, if we're talking about good albums, not good bands,
exactly,
we picked this album, so that's why I was like, there's good stuff in here.
The problem is if you listen to all their albums, it's kind of the same. There's segments of them. It's how the band hits. But they were hyper influential, I feel, in the modern scene.
I will say that Charmer is actually no. Spin suffers from the entire record being good, but nothing being great. Which the issue with this album is there's great and then there's bad. And so like, I don't know what would be better or worse for like a band to have. Is something very midline that you're hearing and just kind of comfortable the entire time, or something that like is almost jarring with how stupid it is.
I mean, I'll say I saw this band. I actually saw Algernon and Tiger's Jaw at the same show at the iconic church in Philly. such a Tumblr night that was. But when that happened, that was 2016, I want to say. This record came out in 2008. They had probably 20 other songs come out between that day of that show when this record came out. They pretty much just played this record. Like they knew what they were doing. That's all anybody wanted to hear. And people went nuts. But people went way crazier for Algernon, including myself. Your boy was shirtless, slithering around.
Ooh.
It was a time.
Yeah. Go.
Go,
Ian.
Go. No, I was just
Okay.
gonna say I've never saw Algernon, so I am basing Algernon. I've seen Tiger Jaw live like multiple times.
Same.
So I'm so I'm gonna give my opinion on Algernon now.
Hit it.
So I think, like I said before, Algernon pushes the Cap and Jazz formula forward. They do but it's more sunshine. It's more bright and fast, and a little bit cleaner. Yep, Yo Soy Milk, all those. It adds a little bit more dynamic to the Cap and Jazz sound. And it's, in one way, it's cool to hear that updated, but it is Kinsella core.
Wow.
And when it first came out, I fucking hated it because I was just like, this is Cap and Jazz. Like, you just ripped off Cap and Jazz. Like, this is, and then multiple other bands did it. And the thing that I don't like about it, and like why I hate Noodlecore, is like, let's say Cap and Jazz is Agent Zero, right? And then you have how they progressed in music, right? And then you have like what that sound could be as it progressed in music. What the Kinsella stuff turned into is way better than like an updated Cap and Jazz. And like, that's how I compare them. And so then I hear Algernon I hear Algernon in like 2007, 2008.
Too many syllables.
I know, right? And I'm just thinking, like, yo, the fucking Kinsella music was way fucking better when they progressed, and that was like 8 years ago. So while I don't like this record, I would pick it over the Tiger's Jaw record.
As someone who likes both, I would also pick Algernon over Tiger's Jaw. And I will say, I encourage you, Jonny, to check out Dogs on Acid, which is the singer from Algernon's band after Algernon broke up, which is kind of like a good progression from Algernon, where there's not really any twinkly. It's kind of just like an alt-rocky kind of band, a little surfery, I feel. And it's fun. It's a good time.
Yeah.
Sweet. So we had a discussion last week, or not last week, last episode, which was 2 days ago, not last week, but about a band called Glockamora, which I don't know if you've listened to them, Jonny, but we basically hyped them up as essentially like Cap and Jazz, but like also just like updated. And I would also say that this is the same thing. And we were hyping that as a good thing. So it's really funny that you're coming along and you're like, yeah, a new update of Captain Jazz is not very good. It's
fine. It's good.
Well, I think Glockamora is different, where
it doesn't excite me.
Algernon is just Cap and Jazz too, where Glockamora took that influence and like they're a little bit more harder. Like it's a little bit harder nosed than Algernon, which is like happy, which is the same vibe as Cap and Jazz, which is why the criticism is super fair.
Yeah, but Algernon just like literally does the same thing. They do the slight talking in the background while the melody's going like blah, 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 blah. I'm talking about crazy shit. I'm
Love that
part. Like, and it's just like it is like I am sucking the big donkey dong of Cap and Jazz, and like I don't care how obvious it is. They're basically like, what's that band that rips off Led Zeppelin?
Oh, Greta Van Fleet.
Yeah, they're the Greta Van Fleet.
Don't say
of
this.
Cap and Jazz.
Don't say that.
Have you ever listened to their second record, Parrot Flies?
Yes, I have. It's better.
It is better.
Yeah.
Fair.
And I think that the aspects of like Algernon, where of some kind of Caterwaller, that it's not. I mean, Paraflies is just so much more fun. But I will say I do like this record. And if we are talking this record over the Tiger Jaw record, I'm picking Algernon. I could see it already went down on the spreadsheet.
Already
so,
did. We don't need all 3 votes.
I think it's good. I think it's fun. It's a fun song. I mean, the motivational song.
Motivational song is my favorite.
If fucking up feels right, fuck it up.
Fuck it up.
That's a good lyric.
I really want my old head self to not get in the way of liking this record, but I listened to it all the way through yesterday and today, and I was like, I just will never like this.
That's fair.
Yeah.
All right, here we go, fellas. Last one. We have Orange Rhyming Dictionary by Just Brazil, Johnny's favorite band, versus
I don't hate Just Brazil.
Rites of Spring, self-titled.
Another insane matchup.
Yeah,
this is a little
this one's interesting.
Well, honestly, I feel so. We did random seeding for this whole list, right? So that's why these matchups are as they are. This seeding feels correct, with Rites of Spring seeded at number 2 and Just Brazil seeded at 31. If I'm gonna go by like skill level,
yeah, no, it's like they're I would say it's
both
like,
top 32, but we see the placement.
Yeah.
So yeah, Just Brazil. Ian and I were talking about this record before, where Ian, you had never really listened to this record too much, right?
I have very little, and I didn't like.
And we discovered why. The first half of this record
kind of sucks.
Not good. B-side though.
B-side is incredible. I would say that it like the first song kind of sucks, and I think that that's its limitation. Once you get through the record and kind of know what they're doing, going back to it, it's better. But on first listen, especially if you're like a Jawbreaker head and you throw on this, you're like, dude, what is going on here?
Fuck?
But then it hits Sea and Enemy, and then from that there on, the record like is so good.
Yeah, and the record ends, the last 2 songs, I Type for Miles into Sweet Avenue, is so good, hits the emo vibes right. I mean, the shit's a little long, 5 minutes and 33 seconds and 5 minutes and 16 seconds, but it's good.
I was listening to Sea and Enemy, and it's a long song, but honestly, it doesn't feel as long as it is. And I think that that's Just Brazil's biggest strength is all these songs are too long, but then when you listen, it doesn't feel too long.
Yeah. How do you feel, Johnny?
So, Just to Brazil is a natural. It feels like a natural progression to Jawbreaker, and I like the indie dynamics that were brought to the progressive emo and rock sound of Jawbreaker. It's a very easy band to bridge you into emo. And this song, I agree with Ian. It starts off a little rough, and then, or the album starts off a little rough, and then it gets pretty good. There's like good songs, and it's very dynamic. Like there's not a lot of like, there is like a core sound, that progressive rock thing, but like they try like different like swing things, different like stuff like that. They incorporate a lot of different stuff from indie into this, which is nice. It's not as good as Dear You, in my opinion, but it's different and good.
Yeah,
well, Dear You, like I was like listening to this, and I'm like, of course, Jawbreaker is a better band. And the funniest way I like was basically thinking about Just Brazil was like, you know what? If someone told me Just Brazil was a better band, I wouldn't be angry. But like that's still assuming that like Jawbreaker is the more enjoyable band to listen to. But I will say it's really good. I also want to say that the album art is really sick.
I personally hate the colors yellow and orange, so I'm not like a huge fan of it. But
I don't know.
I'm trying to remember.
I just think it's like, you know, like this got ripped off so much within like the next like pretty much like 20 years later, essentially. Like everyone who gets into graphic design pretty much gets into trying to make shit like this. But like, and the fact that they did it on this record, it looks cool. Like I like it. it's intriguing. It makes you want to listen.
So this is interesting because it came out in 98, but like I feel like a lot of bands were kind of doing this thing. Like even Captain Jazz did this.
I guess so.
And Joan of Arc and like all of those bands.
I like that. I don't know. Maybe I just like that kind of shit.
It is it is cool, and it's very like defining of the generation.
It reminds me of a cheeseburger.
Yeah, it's kind
it's not. I guess it's not unique because I'm looking at Promise Ring too. Like that's the same thing.
Yeah.
Pretty much every one of their records looks the same. Maybe it was the same guy, to be honest.
Dude, shout out to that dude.
I think it was just like a 90s thing because like, you know, the 90s were kind of like it was like an era where like we were cleaning up things, you know, and like graphic design was getting cleaned up and like, you know, our haircuts were a little more conservative, shit like that, you know.
But speaking of the 90s and then going back to the decade before, the 80s.
The 80s.
What a transition.
That was a great transition.
That's what I'm here for, babe. We're trying to get on TV. We got Rites of Spring. This record is really good. It's
so fucking good.
Yeah, like we've talked about this before. Ian and I aren't good at talking about music. But it good. It good. It sounds great.
I mean, okay, so I love 80s hardcore. That's what I got into in middle school was 80s hardcore. And I wish I would have been shown this because I think I would have loved the shit out of it if I was like given a Minor Threat, then being like, oh, also check out Rites of Spring. And like even more so than Embrace. Like this is so good. And it has like the fast parts. It has like the really dirty sounding, just 80s hardcore sound mixed in with sometimes like Guy sounds so fucking unhinged on record, like more so than he ever does in Fugazi. Like,
he sounds song? Fully like, nuts.
Persistent Vision is like such a sick song. And I wish I listened to this more. Like, I think that this kind of helped me listen to, like, really, really listen to this. Because sometimes I throw this on and on listen for preparing for this pod, I was like, damn, this shit, there's a reason why this shit's the classic.
Yeah. When I was listening to all these records, I tried to listen to them all once at least. And I ended up just like listening to this one, like, after every other like listen. Like I would listen to a record and then I'd be like, oh, I kind of want to listen to Rites of Spring again, and I just put this back on, then I jump to the next song, and then it was hard to get away from. And like there's certain like this, like the song For Want Of is just like, to me, like an all-time classic like emo song.
Mm-hmm.
It is like perfect. It's like overly emotional. It's a little aggressive, vaguely poetic, and it's just it hits so hard. And I want Jonny to say he hates it because that'd be very funny right now.
When you think the origins of hardcore, a lot of it comes down to like DC hardcore, and that's kind of like the defining sound. And like DC hardcore is fucking awesome because it is just like straight in your face, just like fucking anti-commercial of like what's going on. It's just like really raw and really energetic. And then you get Rites of Spring. And Rites of Spring not only takes that, but like fucking introduces a melodic version of hardcore. And I fucking love this record. Like this is a capstone record, because like not only is it just like when you listen to it and you listen to it like in the guise of like everybody was just into hardcore and then they introduced this, it is like leagues beyond their contemporaries like Minor Threat and stuff like that. I love Minor Threat, but that when you compare this, it was only a couple years later, like the things that they were thinking of with the melodic structures and like how like edge of the world feeling it is sometimes, and like edge of like raw feels, like this is it. This is ground zero for like the birth of modern emo and everything as we know it too. Like, because every genre birthed from this. You got fucking emo violence, you got emo as it was like in the 80s transforming into, you know, your more melodic emo in the 90s. Like this band, if they hadn't done what they've done, who knows what would have happened to music. Like this is one of the most important records, and it's fucking catchy. It's really good. So,
yeah, it also makes sense why like listening to it, I'm like, oh, it makes sense why screamo became screamo. Like if we're talking like screamo and stuff like that, like this is what
people were trying to get back
to. This is the blueprint. Yeah, like this is what they're pulling from. That's why that shit is like it's really, really good.
This is patient zero of every emo subgenre.
Yeah.
Screamo, emo, all of it. Like you can, that like visceral emo feel that is like distinctively emo, the emotional feel of it all comes back to Rites of Spring.
Yeah. But it also like sounds really of the time. And I think that's really cool too, because it does sound like it's from the 80s and it's not like, but I like, you could like, if you could throw this on a set of like, if you were doing like an 80s hardcore bands, like just like, especially out of DC, and it would be like different, but it doesn't sound like they were like complete, like poo-pooing the old stuff. Like it was taking it and then like launching it into other things, and especially adding the melodicism, like especially musically, but still having like anger pretty present.
They saw hardcore music, right? And they're like, cool, like let's progress it a little bit. And like they accidentally made a fucking genre, you know? That's what happened. That's why it's so fucking like forward thinking for when it came out. It's cool.
What's crazy is that like when you think back of hardcore and just like punk in general, of like a person, like a mascot, right? You think of like Henry Rollins and like Ian MacKaye as like the two like heads. And then when you think back of like emo, like I always fuck up. Is it Guy or Guy? It's Guy, right?
Guy.
Yeah. Like I feel like he should get more credit in terms of being like the real godfather of emo. Like Ian MacKaye too, to an extent, because of Embrace and Fugazi. And I know we're assholes for not putting Fugazi on this list, but we put Embrace and Rites of Spring.
I like Rites of Spring more than Fugazi. So.
Same. And so like,
wow,
hot takes.
I love Fugazi.
I think Fugazi's not emo. Like I think it's different.
I think it's emo. It's early emo. It's right in there.
I guess so. Fugazi's real good. We're not talking about Fugazi.
No. But what I'm saying is like Ian MacKaye could be on the Mount Rushmore of hardcore and emo, and like Guy's on there too. Like he has to be, and I feel like he doesn't get enough recognition. For whatever reason, he got a cool name. That picture of him hanging out of a basketball hoop. Like, come on, he needs more recognition, people.
Well, you know, the thing with emo is it went to a place where it became more palatable, right?
Yeah.
But like,
this is not it.
For people like us, we appreciate like all harder genres, not just emo or stuff like that. We're also, you know, we're into hardcore, power violence, you know, death metal, all that shit, you know? And so when we listen to this, like, it's easy for us to get into it because it's actually an easier listen to than some of these other harder stuff. Yeah. But like, you know, for the general public, when you're like, oh yeah, you like Thursday or Taking Back Sunday, and you want to go to this, like we were when we were young fest, like, yo, check out Rites of Spring, who like started the emo genre, and they'd listen to that and be like, what the fuck is this? Like, this is garbo. I remember when I first got into emo and I listened to Rites of Spring for the first time, I did not like them, but I didn't understand it. You know?
Yeah, I agree.
And good thing we're not going for the most palatable record.
It honestly took me a while for this to like, coming from being like, oh, like I fucking really like Sunny Day Real Estate, and then going back and listening to this and being like, oh, this is kind of like not what I wanted, but like listening to it now and having it be like, just, I don't know, for some reason in the context, I was just like listening to it as an 80s hardcore record too. And I was like, dude, this would have been so cool. And then also I'm reading the copy pasta again, and maybe they're kind of right.
And like one thing about this record too, is I feel like a lot, like the joke of emo, right, is that it's like angry teenagers. but Rites of Spring, I feel like to me sounds distinctly like an angry 20-year-old.
Yeah.
Like you're out of high school. So you do have to be a little bit older to appreciate it. And so like in the times when we were all first discovering emo and like all that shit, like we were teenagers. And so like this not hitting off the bat, I feel like makes sense. So after like developing a taste for hardcore and, you know, scrams and screamo and all that sort of shit, and then going back to it was when I was like, oh, yeah, okay. Yeah, that guy that yelled at me on MySpace one time was correct.
And maybe Fugazi is more post-hardcore. Like
that's my argument.
Yeah. But like, you know, post-hardcore and emo
same shit.
Were like close brothers, you know?
Yeah.
It's like
Irish twins.
So, I think even a lot of the fake emo bands are actually more, they actually have a lot of post-hardcore in them. Like that's like, like I would say that like Thursday is like they're a post-hardcore band, and they could easily be said that they're an emo band or a screamo band. And even let's go weirder with like the Used. Like the Used is a post-hardcore band. They're definitely pulling from a lot more like mainstream rock at times, but I think that like even their early stuff, it has a lot of like jammy sort of post-hardcore parts.
That first The Used record kind of fucking hits. I'm just saying.
Oh no, that's good. It's good.
Taste of Ink. Come on, babe.
Yeah, I mean that's why I was like trying to champion At the Drive-In, because like it does have a post-hardcore sound, but like it's post-hardcore and emo, so it just sounds like fucking emo to me, you know. And it's not like your typical sad emo, which is kind of like more what we affiliate emo with. But maybe like emo is more dynamic than that.
Yeah, maybe we should put that in instead of Hey Mercedes.
Some would argue this, some would not. So if we're taking a vote, fellas, we got Just Brazil versus Rites of Spring here. What are we doing?
It's Rites of Spring for me.
It's Rites of Spring. This was going to be tough for
time.
Me. And I was kind of stressing over it. Like earlier today, I was kind of listening back and forth and stressing, but then I was just like, it's got to be Rites of Spring. Like that's this is
what it is.
The record.
Damn.
Yeah. And it's not just us being those guys that are like, well, Rites of Spring is the first thing. It's like, it really is like a fucking good album. Like when you, and like, Ian, what you're saying before, man, where it's like, you went into it like trying to find more Sunny Day stuff, so you didn't understand it. But then when you went into it, like going from like a Minor Threat mindset into Rites of Spring, you see the progression. You're like, oh shit, it's this. Fuck yeah.
I would, if any one of our listeners has never listened to it,
hit it right fucking now, baby. Honestly, put on this record and then listen to the Embrace record too together. Like they flow together so well. And then while you're at it, put on One Last Wish.
One Last Wish is really good.
Yeah. Listen to all three of those records together and you'll be like, yo, this emo shit pretty good.
Yeah, I like Embrace. They didn't make it last round, huh?
No, they did not make it. Who'd they lose to?
Who are they up against?
It was a tight one, I think, if I remember correctly. I think I voted for Embrace on that one.
They were up against Title Fight Floral Green.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, Floral Green is a classic all-timer record. I got the pennant for it right here. We actually pulled an audible on that one. It was shed at first, but anyways, we just did this. We got this top 8. Let's run down the list real quick for the next step. We have Knapsack. This conversation is ending starting now versus Tell All Your Friends by Taking Back Sunday. That's interesting. Kind of the same vibe of emo and a little precursor, one little after. Then we have I Wish I Could Stay Here by Basement versus The Ugly Organ by Cursive. To make that a fair one, I'm going to have to listen to that Cursive record again.
Listen to
Domestica
first. Yeah, I don't know why I keep forgetting that name.
Old
I'm going to
age.
listen to it when we're done.
Then we got LP1 by American Football versus Diary by Sunny Day Real Estate. That's
this is the big heavy hitter.
That's a crazy one.
Yeah, I don't.
That's we can't get into that now.
That honestly probably could have been the last round, and I wouldn't have been offended.
Yeah. Hey,
that one you're gonna have to do like some fucking math formulas for that one. Like you're not gonna be able to just like think of that in your head.
I'm gonna ask like someone who like has never listened to emo to listen to both of those. And
should we ask our moms?
I'm gonna ask her. We can ask our moms, and then also ask like a jazz musician, see what they see how they feel about it.
You should ask. No, what you need to do, you should find a younger music head that is into like good music, but has never explored these two bands.
Dude, my friend just led a School of Rock Battle of the Bands for like 13-year-olds learning punk music. I think I should get his students to weigh in on this. Shout out to James, former guest of the pod.
Young.
Maybe. Yeah. And then the last one we have Some Kind of Cadwallader by Algernon Cadwallader versus Rites of Spring by Rites of Spring.
Are we gonna read the entire list? Or should we read the entire list going all the way?
Oh yeah, sure. Why not? Let's go back up to, just in case for anybody else prior to
last
this
episode.
Jimmy Eat World Clarity versus The Promise Rings Nothing Feels Good. That's a hard one too.
Yeah, Jesus. Those are very similar records.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Then we have Floral Green by Title Fight versus 10 Songs by I Hate Myself. Personally difficult. Yeah. Johnny, did you ever listen to Title Fight too much, or is that not so much, right?
That's my time. But I did listen to I Hate Myself a lot.
Dude. Hey, I hate myself.
Classic 90s record. Yeah, and that's like melodic emo, but it's dark.
It's good shit.
It's borderline some screamo. I have once heard someone say it's a screamo band, not an emo band. When I asked if they like screamo, they're like, I don't like screamo, but I hate myself.
I'm like, okay.
I think it's a true emo record.
Yeah.
Like if someone told me it was screamo, I'm not going to bother arguing them about it, but I won't be mad.
It's definitely proto screamo.
Yeah. And then we have I Could Do Whatever If I Wanted by Snowing versus 4 Minute Mile by the Get Up Kids. And then Home Like No Place Is There by the Hotelier versus Just Married by Glockamora.
It's interesting how we have like
the eras lining up.
The eras kind of lining up, like the Jimmy Eat World versus Promise Ring, and then we have the Hotelier versus like Glockamora. Like that's kind of like the 2010s things. Then we have the 90s going on.
It's crazy, dude. Shit's crazy. Emo music's pretty good. Johnny, I want to thank you again for coming back on. Our second returning guest. Do you got anything to plug?
I hope that you do this for Scrams one day, real Screamo, because like I am super educated on that shit. Like way too much. But,
maybe we need to do a round table.
I think that would be fun. I also think Rites of Spring would be back on that list.
Yeah, some of these would be, yeah. What do I have to plug? I made a UVM video.
I highly suggest everybody go watch Johnny's video on the University of Vermont.
Yeah, so like, you guys know me. Maybe you don't, but I do crazy political videos on my hometown. It's basically like Tim and Eric meets John Oliver. And I just did my year-end video, and it's a super episode because usually I do like 5 to 10 minute episodes, but this one is 40 minutes long, and I do a lot of things that I've always wanted to do with it, and it shows like my skills on crack, like what I can do, and I'm really, really proud of it. I have 14 different guest stars on it, and I'm really proud of it. So I would just plug that video.
It's the magnum opus of like YouTube poop versus political commentary.
Yeah.
It's pretty perfect.
It's ridiculous. And there's a little bit of sitcom in there. There's a little bit of Tim and Eric, a little bit of Adult Swim. It's good.
It's great stuff. Johnny, thank you for coming on.
Thank you so much.
This has been
I always appreciate it.
The Super Bowl of Emo Part 2.5. Go fuck yourself.
Soft dude, good new. Need 2 packs in the mouth door. Winston's all blue. My dad needs his damn shoe.